surveys that you can look at. You can probably, as an alum to any school, probably go back into the career website, and they'll probably have comp surveys across industries, across geographies you can look at as well to give you a better idea. I think those are some general guidelines, though. Okay, now folks can also get hired laterally. All right, so an analyst who's worked at another bulge bracket firm or maybe worked in a different industry. I actually worked in commercial banking first, got credit trained, got some modeling skills under my belt, and then moved into investment banking and got some corporate finance valuation experience as well. So there are opportunities to do that. I know several of you are not in school right now. You're actually out working. So there are opportunities to get hired as a lateral hire. Really, it's a matter of demonstrating you've got the skills to be successful in banking. And that's where I think the IBI course is important. You can go, especially to a boutique bank that maybe doesn't have a training program, can't afford to have a year-round training program like the bulge brackets have. You can go in day one and say, I've done valuation models, I've built financial models, I've built LBO models, I've built M&A models. Here are examples of the models I've built. All right, here's my, you can ask me technical questions and I can answer those. I think that's really probably the most important thing. Demonstrate you can be productive day one, especially when it comes to a boutique bank or even a private equity firm. Private equity firms, by definition, usually keep themselves very, very small. They don't maintain extensive training programs. They might send students to an IBI and get them trained, but for the most part, they want people who have transaction and financial modeling experience and can come in day one and make a difference. So that's really where I think you demonstrate or differentiate yourself if you're a lateral candidate. So let's talk a little bit about the recruiting season. If we're talking about new analyst or associate hires, again, these are non-lateral hires. We're talking about analysts or associates being hired directly out of school. Actually, we're right now at the start of recruiting season for most schools. Right? If you're in school right now, banks are probably coming on campus, giving information sessions, starting to maybe sign people up for interview schedules for this month, next month, etc. So if you're in school, you're looking for jobs, get into the process now if you haven't done so already. A lot of banks, especially the bulge bracket banks, they might only target a limited number of schools, usually the bigger schools, sometimes the Ivy League schools. Most banks, the bulge brackets are headquartered in New York. The Ivy League schools are kind of in the Northeast, kind of makes sense in that regard. But if your school's not on the target list, you can still get on their radar screen. You can still get involved in the process. I had a student about a year ago. Yeah, it was about a year ago because the recruiting process was just getting started. He had gone to, I think, University of Arkansas, had graduated a few years before that, was living up in Arkansas, and decided that he wanted to go and see if he could talk to Goldman Sachs. Goldman wasn't coming to his school. Goldman was only coming to UT down in Austin. So he called, managed to talk his way in. They let him come down. He drove down from Arkansas, was able to go to the UT information session and be part of that process. And I don't think he got a job, unfortunately. It was right after Lehman and all that. But you can still find a way to get in the door. All right, and that's kind of leads me to these next points. If you're not on the target list, obviously that's one thing you might do. Find out where the bulge bracket banks are coming. Try and find a way to get into the information sessions. Network with some of the on-campus recruiting folks from those banks and get yourself into the process. But I cannot overemphasize the importance of networking. All right, call everyone you know. Especially take advantage of your school's alumni list. Go into your school's alumni directory. Most are online nowadays. You can go on, you can search by geography, you can search by profession or industry. If you're interested in banking in Dallas, all right, search on banking in Dallas. Find anyone and everyone from your school who's an alum, who works in investment banking, who works in Dallas. Start reaching out to them. Try and get on their calendar for an informational interview. Just basically an informal, you sit down for coffee, ask them a little bit about the job. They're obviously going to ask you a little bit about yourself. The theory being if you can impress them in the informational interview, they're going to help get you into more of a formal interview setting. Right? Anytime you talk to anyone in an investment bank, consider it an interview, a formal interview. Informational interviews would be the same. All right, so again, I can't overemphasize the importance of this. Find as many people as you can. And most people I've found will be very receptive to this. All right, I've hit my alumni database many times. I've approached many people that I didn't know, just approached them blindly via phone or via internet. They'll usually take your call. They'll usually agree to sit down for coffee or spend 10 or 15 minutes with you. So just, you'd be surprised at how far that can take you. All right. So definitely try that first. Contact the banks, contact the recruiting departments directly. Figure out what's going on in the process, what are the key dates, who are the key people at the investment banks to start talking to, who's running the process, and find a way to get your resume in front of that person. Don't just think that you can go to the Goldman website, submit your resume electronically. Chances are it will never be seen by human eyes. All right? Those typically get fed into a system, they get scanned, they look for keywords in certain resumes, and unless your resume has those keywords on it, it'll never see the light of day. All right? So don't just do that and stop there. You've got to get a live person on the phone, get contact information, get in front of them. It's probably the toughest recruiting environment we've ever seen in our lives. So you've got to make sure you take several steps to make sure you're successful in the process. Right? Networking, contact the recruiting departments directly. Even if you can find people's names or contact info by hitting their website. Sometimes the boutique investment banks will have bios on their website. Find an analyst, maybe find someone who's in the same town as you are, or maybe they had the same school as you did. Maybe you've got something in common with them. I don't know what it would be. Start reaching out to them. Also trying to get informational interviews. Try and get into the process somehow. All right? It's very important to get started early. Very important to do as much networking as you can, especially now. All right, so again, timing. If you're looking for full-time analyst, full-time associate positions, if you're in school right now, like I said, they're on campus probably right now. They're going to be interviewing in the fall. Sometimes they'll make job offers before the holiday break. Sometimes they'll do a second round set of interviews in January or so, and then make their offers then. If you're looking for internships, usually that type of thing will start ramping up after the holiday break. Usually in the start of the calendar year, you'll start seeing banks and other firms for that matter start focusing on filling internship needs. Not sure what internship hiring is going to look like for next year at this point, but if that's what you're looking for, definitely make sure you start now to understand what the key dates are. Don't wait until it's too late. First-year MBAs will oftentimes do an internship at an investment bank. If they do well in their internships, a lot of times they'll walk out with a job offer for the next year. Okay, and the same thing might hold true if you're a junior in undergrad. Get an internship between junior and senior year. Hopefully you can walk out with a job offer in hand, not have to or be able to circumvent the recruiting process that next year. Again, this is for folks in school, not necessarily lateral hires. Lateral hires can occur all year long, especially when you talk about boutique investment banks. The boutique banks have usually are a lot smaller in terms of their overall size. They have a lot lower recruiting requirements. A lot of times they will not interview at schools at all. Okay, they may need one person a year, and whenever that need comes up, they'll either start reaching out to people that they know. Maybe they'll post a job, maybe they won't. All right, so this is where it makes sense to network with as many people as you can, stay on their radar screen, try and keep yourself apprised of when they're hiring. The goal is to be there when they're ready to make a hire and have them think of you. All right, so that's really important. And again, like I said, I just can't even overemphasize it. Just network as much as you can. Sometimes banks might use headhunters. Personally, I've never had great experience with recruiters or headhunters, but a lot of people, some people have. And if it's worked for you, if it's something you feel comfortable with, then might be another way to approach it. But I would personally recommend take it into your own hands, make as many contacts as you can, and just keep following up and following up. Eventually, you'll be successful. It's all about numbers these days. You got to throw as much as you can against the wall and hope something sticks. It's just the way it is. All right, so let's talk about resumes. Obviously, a key piece of literature that you need to market yourself. And it's important, obviously, that that's structured, formatted well, really presents you in the best possible light, showcasing previous work experience, your education, your outside activities. Common mistakes that people make. Probably the most common mistakes are formatting. And the biggest pet peeve I see when I see resumes are resumes that are not focused on what someone has accomplished. If you're talking only about, say, what you've been responsible for, my strong feeling is that you really need to show a resume that shows a lot of results, the results that you've achieved over your career. I think that's by and large what recruiters are looking for right now. It's not just what you're responsible for, but what you've achieved. So that's usually my biggest comment to anyone who sends me their resume, is to be accomplishments focused. Sometimes formatting, keep the formatting simple, keep it easy to read. Don't use a lot of different font sizes. Don't use a lot of different fonts. Don't use a lot of shading or coloring or anything. Keep it very simple. You don't want someone to get a headache when they look at your resume. You don't want them to have to search around to find key pieces of information. All right, keep it formatted simply, consistently, and just make it easy to read. If you're recently out of school or if you're in school now, I like to see resumes that are limited to a page. If you've been out for several years and had several jobs, then obviously this is going to be very difficult to do. So use your judgment there. But again, if you're on the younger side or if you're in school right now, keep it to a page. All right. Obviously, I think it goes without saying, no typos or grammatical mistakes, but you'd be surprised. I've seen some resumes that have some crazy things on them. So double check, triple check your resume. Real importantly, make sure you're familiar with every single point on your resume and you're prepared to talk about it. Okay, if you're saying that you're fluent in Brazilian Portuguese, don't be surprised if some hotshot banker decides to conduct the interview in Brazilian Portuguese. I've seen it happen. All right. If you say that you're an avid reader, be prepared to talk about some books that you've recently read. All right. So just keep in mind, everything on your resume is absolutely fair game. You don't want to get caught either not being able to demonstrate that you know something you say you know, or demonstrate that you can have an intelligent conversation on a subject. Don't embellish your roles on previous financial transactions, kind of along the same lines. You don't want to lie on your resume, obviously. It's a marketing piece, so everyone, I think, puffs up their resume a little bit, but don't over-embellish, and don't lie, certainly. People lose their jobs for falsifying resumes, so just be careful with that. Let's take a look real quickly at a resume example. You should have this in your file, in your subfolder for interviewing. This is just, I think, a made-up person that we use at IBI with some made-up companies as well. But I think this is a very typical resume in terms of formatting for investment banking. Hopefully everybody can see that. And this person is obviously someone who's been out of school for a while. They're starting with experience. If you're still in school, if you haven't had a job or an internship or something like that, you probably want to start with your education. Okay, but if you've been out for a while, probably start with experience. Talk about that first and leave education to come a little bit later. All right, so this person worked for ABC Company in Chicago. I like to see dates on the far right margin. They were an analyst in investment banking, focused on M&A or sell-side M&A in tech. All right, and my biggest peeve with this resume is the fact that it's talking more about responsibilities than accomplishments. All right, so if I were reviewing this resume for a student or for someone, I would recommend talk about what you accomplished, not just what you were responsible for. All right, the analysis you did was instrumental in getting the deal closed because of this, or you highlighted a key issue that allowed for a higher value. Or why do you want to work at this particular bank? Here they really want to know that you understand what Goldman is all about, or even this boutique bank in Dallas or Houston or Chicago or wherever it might be. You understand what the bank's about, its culture, its market, the industry it's focused on. Right? So obviously you will want to have done your research going in. If you're talking to a boutique bank versus a bulge bracket bank, you're probably going to phrase your answers a little bit differently. Right? Boutique banks tend to not be so rigid in terms of the hierarchy within the bank among its staff. So as a junior person, you'll probably get a little more client time than you would at working at Goldman Sachs. When I worked at a boutique bank, I got to go to clients a lot on my own. Go out and spend the day with the client. And you don't always get that at the bulge bracket banks. At the boutique bank I was at, I got to take the lead on execution roles a lot more than I would have had I been at a bulge bracket bank. So it just, I think the opportunity to step up, the opportunity to get more responsibility, the opportunity at a boutique bank to get more exposure to the senior bankers on a day-to-day basis was really valuable for me. I got to work directly with we had partners, it was a partnership, but the equivalent of a managing director. I got to go into their office, sit down with them one-on-one all the time. It was a nice experience. If it's a full-service bank, obviously you're going to want to tailor your answer accordingly. You're going to be working with bigger clients, all right? Or that bank may have a particular focus, particular reputation in, say, pharmaceuticals or M&A. Maybe it's a leading capital markets player. Right? So you're just going to want to understand what that bank is about and tailor your answer accordingly. All right? Any questions on that? You'll get these all the time. Tell me about yourself. Why do you want to be a banker? Why do you want to work at this bank? I think you'll get those in pretty much any interview you go into in investment banking. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? I think here it really depends on what position you're interviewing for. Right? If you're interviewing for an analyst position, I think it's okay to say, I want for the next 2 years to be committed here. I know it's a 2-year program. I plan to be a top performing analyst, maybe get promoted to associate. That'd be great. But after 2 years, I'm going to take a look back. I'm going to assess what I've learned in this role. Maybe I'll go back to business school. Right? Maybe I'll want to stay on as an associate. Maybe I'll go to private equity, move over to the buy side. All right? So it really kind of depends. If you're an associate, you're definitely going to want to show that you're thinking long term with regard to your future at the bank. All right? You're not using this as a stepping stone to jump to private equity after 3 years. Right? Again, if you're interviewing for an associate, they're looking at you as though you could be a potential VP, potential MD one day. Right? Your answer should be consistent with that. I plan to move up. My goal is to make VP within 3 years and then make MD within another 4 or 5 years. Right? That type of thing. All right? So be prepared to answer that. I don't know if I'd say I want to be an investment banker for life, but clearly you'll want to have given some thought to your future. And if you're an associate candidate, that future had better involve the investment bank for at least the next several years. All right. What's your favorite class in school? Here, it really doesn't. I don't think it really matters what your answer is. Again, I don't think you necessarily need to be a quant person to be successful in banking. All right. The quant side of banking we've taught you here. It's not rocket science. All right. Maybe you loved English. Great. Talk about it. Maybe you love math. Fantastic. Talk about it. If you're interviewing for more of a quant role,